We're about to step into a space that, honestly, most of us try really hard to ignore. The dark, hollow echo of a perfectly normal life. We're diving deep into David Fincher's 1999 masterpiece, Fight Club. But listen, we're not talking about underground brawls today. Instead, we're going to examine this as a dark, psychological warning, a literal descent into the human psyche.
Let that sit for a second. When the predictable routine of your day-to-day modern existence gets completely stripped away, when the void just stares back at you, who are you? Are you anything at all?
Section 1. The illusion of order. You see, modern life is kind of like a meticulously designed trap. It heavily rewards stability, routine, quiet compliance, but all the while it masks this disconnected internal reality that feels, honestly, profoundly suffocating. And the film's unnamed narrator, Fincher calls him an everyman, he's caught right in the middle of it. He's basically a hollow vessel who's built this incredibly fragile identity entirely by conforming to whatever society expects. He hasn't actually discovered his soul, he's just constructed a mask. And that mask is slowly cracking under the immense pressure of his own existence.
Consider this idea from Edward Norton. He was reflecting on a whole generation whose value system was basically dictated by advertising culture. Our protagonist is trapped in this profound consumerist numbness. He's desperately seeking, as they put it, spiritual happiness through home furnishing. But, well, your soul can't exactly be bought in an IKEA catalog, right?
Moving to Section 2, the fragmented self.
So what happens when the mind can no longer sustain a totally hollow, meaningless existence? It makes a pretty terrifying choice. It doesn't just collapse under the weight. No, it fragments. It literally splinters into pieces just to survive. The narrator isn't just losing his sanity here. He's losing his integration. He creates Tyler Durden, this sort of Nietzschean Übermensch, simply because he can't reconcile his own conflicting internal needs. Tyler is the ultimate projection of absolutely everything our narrator suppresses in his waking life. And here's the crucial point to take away from this. This film actually has no external villain. The war is entirely within. It's a battle between two deeply conflicting forces inside a single mind. You've got this desperate need for societal order and safety, totally warring against a violently suppressed demand for intensity, pain, and true freedom. Fincher is a master at using cinematography to mirror this gradual psychological descent. Those dark, damp environments, the lurid, bruised colors, they really aren't just cool stylistic choices. As Fincher himself notes, it's a visual metaphor of what the narrator is heading into. I mean, he even splices these subliminal frames of Tyler into the early reels. He's literally planting the seeds of fragmentation right in your mind, just as they're growing in the narrators.
Let's look at Section 3, Identity as a Product.
We really need to shift our focus here to the inherent vulnerability of the human condition. Think about it. When you build an identity purely on external possessions and consumer goods, you're basically building a house on sand. Society feeds us this very comfortable, quiet lie. The lie that human value is somehow visible. That your life's worth could be measured by the thread count of your sheets or the designer label on your shirt. This creates an external identity that's entirely dependent and incredibly unstable. You become exactly what you own, which means, deep down, you own absolutely nothing of yourself.
So let me ask you something. And just let the weight of this question settle for a moment. Is your value merely visible? When all the external layers of your life are just burned away. When the apartment explodes and all those precious possessions turn to literal ash, what is actually left behind? Section 4. The Seduction of Chaos.
Now we have to delve into the deeply uncomfortable reality of modern masculinity. We're looking at the dangerous, frankly inevitable consequences of prolonged emotional and biological suppression. As David Fincher explains it, biologically we're designed to be hunters, but we live in a society of shopping. He said in that societal emasculation, this everyman is created. Those suppressed biological drives, that primal anger of an entire generation, they don't just disappear because society asks politely. No, they go deep underground, where they twist and distort into something truly terrifying.
So you have this intense contrast. On one side, you've got the suffocating orderly control of modern consumerist systems, breeding this quiet desperation. And on the other side, the intoxicating, liberating, but ultimately entirely dehumanizing violence of Project Mayhem. Tyler offers an escape from the numbness. He offers a way to finally feel alive, even if it's through shared trauma. But make no mistake here, this is a serious warning. Suppression creates pressure, and pressure always, always finds a release. Now, these extreme violent experiences definitely create a raw sense of brotherhood for the disenfranchised. But that belonging, it's fundamentally unstable. It literally requires continuous, dangerous escalation just to maintain the high.
Section 5. The false dichotomy.
We really need to deconstruct the central tension of the film if we're going to understand its true philosophical weight. Believing that you only have two choices, extreme order or unchecked chaos, well, that's a fatal trap. Sure, society demands complete order, which breeds a lifeless stagnation, basically a slow death of the soul. But Tyler Durden's nihilistic philosophy? That is definitely not the cure. It only replaces one form of control with another. We watch it morph from liberating rebellion into this camp-like fascist destruction, where individuals are quite literally stripped of their names.
And this right here is the crux of the entire narrative. Unchecked chaos is just as dangerous, just as soul-destroying as unchecked control. To survive, to truly mature as a human being, the narrator eventually has to pull back. He has to violently reject Tyler's dialectic and somehow forge a middle ground just to save himself.
I think Fincher's absolute brilliance lies in his manipulation of us, the audience. He once said, "I wanted people to love Tyler, but I also wanted them to be okay with his vanquishing." He deliberately seduces you with the intoxicating allure of chaos and rebellion early on, only to brutally force you to recognize its utter emptiness by the third act.
Finally, Section 6, the enduring mirror. Over 2 decades later, Fight Club remains this deeply complex cultural artifact, yet it serves as a mirror that reflects a really dark irony. Audiences over the years have fundamentally misread its core message. What was intended as a razor-sharp critique of imbalance was tragically mistaken for a celebration of rebellion. So many viewers completely idolized Tyler Durden, they totally missed the fact that the narrative is a desperate warning about the perils of absolute extremes. Tyler was never the hero, he was always the manifestation of a sickness.
Fincher himself recently expressed alarm at this misinterpretation by some groups. He fully intended the film as a critique of the Übermensch, calling it a cautionary tale about what to do with the anger engendered by your disenfranchisement. It is absolutely not an instruction manual for violence. It's a deep exploration of the incredibly fragile human condition.
So we arrive at the end of our descent. If everything external that defines you, your job, your possessions, your carefully constructed societal role, if all of that were to suddenly disappear, do you discover who you are, or do you realize you never really knew?